Today, on the report, an arrest has been made following the manhunt of a Texas shooting suspect and the latest on the Writers Guild strike.
Also, the Biden administration's plan to send U.S. troops to the U.S.-Mexico border.
And the United States move to uplift remaining COVID-19 vaccination mandates.
Plus, the low wages within the fast food industry and community college deemed a waste of time. The report starts now.
Welcome back. I'm Elmira Darmanian.
Good to see you. I'm Shelby Martin.
I'm Noah Sakatis. Hello.
And I'm Alexis Ray. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at The Report CSUF or on our Titan TV Instagram at Titan TV CSUF to keep in touch with us and view our new content. The days-long manhunt for the gunman accused in a Texas massacre has come to an end. 38-year-old Francisco Oropeza was arrested on the night of May 2nd after being found hiding in a closet.
On the night of April 28th, Oropeza was accused of killing 5 people, including a 9-year-old boy with an AR-15 rifle. The 5 victims were among 15 family members that had gathered for a church event in their home in Cleveland, Texas.
Authorities in Wilson Garcia, who lost both his wife and 9-year-old son in the tragedy, claimed he, along with 2 others, had approached the suspect at an earlier time and requested him to stop shooting his gun in the yard as their newborn was trying to sleep.
Oropeza later progressed to break an entry where 5 of the 10 people inside were shot and killed. Prior to the arrest, law enforcement increased the reward from what was originally $20,000 to a total of $80,000 for his capture.
Oropeza, who has been deported from the U.S. a total of 4 times, is now officially in custody thanks to tip revealing his location through the FBI's tip line.
Starting May 2nd, for the first time in 15 years, the Writers Guild of America will go on strike. After 6 weeks of unsuccessful negotiation between the WGA and the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers on contract renewals, more than 11,000 TV and film writers are expected to walk out and cease any work on new scripts for TV or film until the Guild membership votes to end the strike.
The strike comes after many writers have argued they are not being paid fairly in the new era of streaming. As part of the strike, WGA members seek pay increases and changes to the existing business model of streaming era shows, running for fewer episodes and requiring less writers in the writers' room.
According to WGA, statistics since the explosion of streaming platforms, median writer-producer pay has declined by 4%, or 23% when adjusted for inflation. With the increase of content being hosted on streaming platforms, residual fees have become non-existent.
The Guild's proposals are estimated to cost $429 million per year and would include creating a minimum for TV staffing and number of weeks of employment, as well as a rewrite of the streaming residual formula to account for international subscribers is estimated to cost.
Studios have reported they are willing to only pay $86 million per year. The 2007 to 2008 Writers Guild strike halted production for 100 days and cost California's economy $2.1 billion. The strike would immediately affect production for late-night talk shows such as The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel Live, as well as daytime soap operas including Days of Our Lives and General Hospital.
Raphael Bob Waxbar, creator and showrunner of Netflix's BoJack Horseman, said of the situation, quote, "I think we're getting to the point where it's going to be that the only people who can afford to try to start a career in television or movies are going to be people who are independently wealthy already, which I don't think is good for television or movies. I don't think we want that," end of quote.
The Biden administration will send 1,500 active duty soldiers to the U.S.-Mexico border for 90 days. Troops will arrive on May 10th, just 1 day ahead of a pandemic-related border policy, which ends on May 11th.
The order is made in attempts to derail the anticipated increase of migrants at the southern border. When a pandemic-related border policy ends on May 11th, troops will arrive a day ahead on May 10th. An estimated 2,500 National Guards already occupy all 9 stations of the borders, operating with U.S. Customs and Border Protections.
Officials said that they requested that the 1,500 Army and Marine Corps troops to fill critical capability gaps like watching for crossings, monitoring camera feeds, and working data entry and warehouse support.
The policy Title 42, set to end May 11th, was implemented during the COVID-19 pandemic and prevented immigrants from requesting asylum. In return, border agents could quickly return many of them to Mexico.
The Biden administration plans to cease most of its remaining COVID vaccine requirements following the end of the national public health emergency for the coronavirus.
Vaccine requirements remain for federal workers, contractors, and foreign air travelers to the U.S. will until May 11th. When the COVID vaccine was first created 2 years ago in September of 2021, the Biden administration was insistent on making the vaccine a global mandate.
At the time, Biden stated that the unvaccinated minority created a high risk of damage. However, these federal mandates are now ending. White House COVID-19 coordinator Dr. Ashish Jha predicts that employers in the healthcare industry can decide to keep their COVID-19 vaccination requirements, comparing it to the flu vaccine that's also been required in hospitals for more than 20 years.
According to Economic Roundtable, fast food workers make up 11% of California's homeless population, which now accounts for about 10 of every 120 people.
In 2021, the industry protested for a $15 hourly minimum wage. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the fast food average hourly wage in California was $16.60 as of last year.
In 2020, the median annual earnings of fast food workers was $14,949. The Service Employees International Union says, quote, "The fast food industry is a poverty employer. Raising the wage floor in this industry is the single most important step for reducing economic homelessness in the state," unquote.
The obstacle many of these employees face is not only the unpredictable nature of their schedules, but also their wages not matching inflation.
Many are forced into homelessness due to the fact that they must choose whether to pay rent and starve or live in their car and eat. Others may be forced to live in uncomfortable situations, such as living with many roommates in a small room, or work a flexible second job, such as delivery services, just to make ends meet.
For many students, going straight from high school to a four-year university is not a possibility, whether it be due to financial reasons or other circumstances.
Most who face financial challenges go to a different route, which is community college, and then transfer in. According to data from the National Student Clearinghouse, among nearly 1 million students who started at a community college in 2016, just 1 in 7 earned a bachelor's degree within 6 years.
One of the biggest issues for transfer students is credit loss. Some universities can deem courses taken at a community college as less rigorous and require students to basically start over. In an article written by AP News, Ricky Corba transferred from a community college to Cal State Bakersfield. When she logged into her portal, she was shocked to discover most of her science classes, even if they used the same textbooks, wouldn't count.
Having to retake such courses not only adds a year, but about $20,000 in tuition and fees as well. Corba says, quote, "It just feels like a waste of time. I thought I was supposed to be going to a CSU and starting hard classes and doing a bunch of cool labs." Now, let's head into our discussion, guys. The first story that we had was Manhunt following Texas shooting. Do you believe this tragedy could have been prevented if the suspect was not approached or was approached? What do you think?
I don't think the situation honestly could have been avoided either way. I mean, the man was clearly unstable and dangerous and armed, and I personally believe a violent situation would have happened regardless. The man who approached him to ask him to stop firing in his backyard was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time.
And it's unfortunate, and this shows that we need higher restrictions on, on who can purchase a gun. When you think about how, yes, it might not be the most realistic thing to ban them altogether simply because of how easy it is for people to obtain illegal firearms, the smallest step we can take in this issue is just to create more obstacles for people to get them. Make sure that we have full background checks to ensure that someone who is mentally ill or someone who has underlying issues can't get a hold of a dangerous weapon. I mean, a 9-year-old boy was murdered in this situation.
Yeah, I looked into the most emotional side of the story. I saw the interview that the dad gave to one of the TV channels that we have. The boy died because he was protecting his mother. He wasn't doing it, he wasn't like the aim at first. He just was shot while protecting his mother. And honestly, just thinking about the not the victim, the murderer hiding in the closet, I thought the police thought initially it was way more serious, because when I looked into it, they thought that he fled the country, he was about to leave, and he is obviously mentally unstable, because I don't know who in their right mind will, first of all, shoot a gun in the yard, second of all, kill a 9-year-old child. It's just disturbing. And honestly, the amount of times we've talked about gun shootings and gun violence throughout this semester, like what? We have 10 episodes,
Every
like
single
9,
show.
10
Every episode we have
Every
a new
episode.
topic,
I don't
yeah,
think it is
and it always
normal.
gets.
I think measures should be taken, because I am honestly tired of saying we have to look and see what happens. We already see what is happening, what is going on. We have to fix it now.
Yeah, and I just think I don't think anyone should shoot any firearm in their property unless they live way out where there's a vast amount of land, where a bunch of trees. Yeah. If we're in a suburban neighborhood, I mean, the houses are close together. If I'm playing music, you can hear it next door.
Yeah.
Right.
So the aim, with the firearm, yeah, he shouldn't have been shooting, period. But like all of you were saying, he was unstable.
Yeah, it's not like there's hunting grounds in a cul-de-sac, in the middle of South Orange County. I mean, you have to think about the implications of, how easy it is for somebody to do that when they mentally are not in the right headspace. They're not in the right headspace. They're not stable enough.
I just want to make sure that we all know that when you are obtaining a gun or any type of rifle, you should take some kind of psychology test just to prove that you are mentally stable, that you know what is the right aim for this specific rifle or gun, how to use it. Because if we're gonna just be selling guns to mentally unstable people, what is the outcome of all of that? You know what I mean?
Noah, what are your thoughts?
No, I agree. I think there should be more background checks in place for people who are going to be purchasing these rifles. I do think the subject of this man's immigration status should be taken into account as well. I mean, we have a huge, massive border problem right now, and this man, it was reported, he'd been deported 4 times before, and somehow he was back in the United States with a deadly assault rifle. Like, how does that happen?
If I struggle to get my student visa, how does he not struggle to get into the country where he was reported 4 times? You know what I mean? It's confusing. Wow. Yeah. So let's go to the different story that we have, a Writers Guild strike. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that? Because we're somehow close to this industry, and I know you have a lot to say if you want to start.
No, it's okay. It's very interesting when you look at the Writers Guild strike, because we're seeing patterns similar to the one in 2008. I don't know if you guys remember, we were very young, but whenever you're rewatching shows like The Office, season 4 of the shows in that era, always a little short. The episodes not always making the most sense, and it's because of that. And I mean, when we're looking at the amount of shows that are being pumped out through streaming, it's almost become sort of like a factory-produced product. The writers are being underpaid because they can just pump out more shows and more shows, so they're paying writers less. And when you're looking at, I really resonated with that quote about how you can't enter the industry unless you have money already. Yeah. I mean, look at the amount of nepotism in Hollywood.
That's true.
People go to 4-year universities like Cal State Fullerton to get the resources and to get their start in the industry, but they can't because of all these barriers.
Honestly, the simple fact of the matter is that streaming services are not providing the grand payoffs that executives hoped for, because everyone in the late 2010s kind of jumped on the streaming service bandwagon after Netflix saw massive success and began producing its own content. It created this kind of oversaturation of content across the board, which led to a steep decline in viewership. More content does not mean more clicks. It actually turns people off when you have more choices on your board. In 2022 alone, the largest streaming services, Netflix, Disney Plus, and HBO Max, all experienced heavy losses in both subscribers and market valuation. Look, Disney fired its own CEO. HBO is now merging with Discovery to form Max, and Netflix is producing a Cuties too. It's ridiculous.
All I'm saying is, just from the perspective of a user of those streaming services, all I'm saying is sometimes I look at a show and I'm like, am I supposed to watch it? Because also my friends, they get really, really lost when they have a lot of options of the show. I would rather have one show that everybody's watching. It is a good quality, a perfect amount of time. Everybody's paid well. We have actual actors who audition, not just some
Noah scented mayo.
Yeah, you know what I mean? The same
Yeah.
people, same faces, same concepts, same thing. Why are we watching the same shows over and over and over again with the same people? And like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
so it's just like we already have enough diversity. I would say that's a good thing that Netflix is working on. If you watch, for example, a show called Sex Education, if you've ever watched that.
I love that show.
I love that show too because the amount of people that are included in that show, it actually like good written show that I enjoy watching. But sometimes I look at a show that are canceled and I'm very confused at like Society, for example.
Yeah,
if you
they-
watch that
they
show,
left it on a
they left
cliffhanger.
and I'm like, this is a good show. Why are you continuing this one if it's like, you know, it's kind of evaluate and just pick what is better.
It probably just didn't get the clicks that Netflix was hoping for. Like that's
Maybe,
the
but
problem.
it's
There's just too many.
disappointing.
There's just too many options for people right now.
And it's like you said, oversaturation, and a lot of times they're basically spewing out things that they think people will like, basic formulas for teen dramas, and it's the same things over and over again.
Same
and writers,
storyline. Yep.
and I feel like at this point in time, not only are the writers being underpaid because of the sheer volume of, you know, options available on the streaming services, but it's limiting their creativity. It's limiting them being able to showcase their skills as writers because they're following this sort of cookie cutter mold. And, you know, when you're looking at all these streaming services, and I remember seeing in the story, they were talking about how late night talk shows like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel, they're also falling behind. And a lot of that has to do with the influx of streaming.
I agree.
True.
So we expressed our opinions. Does anybody else have something to say on that? Or we're good?
I don't know. I don't think that the writers should be paid more. I mean, the content has not been good. I'm gonna be honest. Like, honest and
Same
most.
concept, same people.
Because why am I taking 30 minutes to scroll through and find me a movie?
Right, right.
It's insane.
I agree. Let's move on to the next story.
Yeah, let's go.
Biden admin, moves troops to the U.S.-Mexico border. What do you guys think about? Should the U.S. expect an influx of immigrants?
See,
Yes.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
we are going to have an influx because we see that, you know, some people believe that this Title 42 was the most effective way to control, high immigration traffic. So now that we're removing it, we're probably going to have a lot more people trying to come in. I'm not sure if it's going to be right away because with, the word getting around, oh, they're bringing in a bunch of new National Guards, people might fall back. I don't know. But months down the line, after that 90 days ends, I think it's going to become huge.
I agree with you absolutely. I mean, look, they all have TVs. They all watch the news. They know
Right.
when is the best time if they want to cross over to show up at the border.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to see it. It's guaranteed.
Right.
Yeah, and especially now that the pandemic is coming to an end and things are reopening again, people have opportunities now to come, so they're going to. And we're definitely going to see a huge jump in populations coming to the border.
Okay, moving on to the story about U.S. moving to Uplift, vaccine mandate. I honestly think it is funny because should the COVID vaccine mandate be lifted? Do we even have COVID these days? Because I feel like we concentrate, as a humanity, we all concentrated so much on different aspects of our life. First, we started the year with Ukraine and Russian conflict last year, now this one. And then it's been problems and other problems, and we haven't heard from COVID for a while, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God we didn't hear from it. So do you think it is necessary? Because as a person that travels a lot, I experience so much COVID issues while traveling, in a sense of you have to be always ready to show your COVID vaccine, to take another test, PCR test. The lines in the airports are crazy. So would it not cause more issues in a sense of big gatherings of people? Just bring your test, show it, it's fine.
Yeah.
What other mandates can you raise, and how are you more strict about it?
I mean, when you're looking at COVID vaccine mandates in, within the country and within possibly spaces like the school system and workplaces, it's interesting because we've seen how, and I don't know if you guys remember being in elementary school and middle school, they had required vaccines like the flu shot, the Tdap shot, all those things. And for a while, I thought that the COVID vaccine would become kind of like that. And for now, I know it's going to be like that in the health space, but I'm just wondering how this might affect, the population of elementary schoolers and high schoolers and middle schoolers, because those kids, they get sick quickly and they spread things very quickly, and that might lead to another COVID surge. Luckily, we have ways to, mitigate the risk of COVID. Luckily, we have quarantine periods. We've shortened the quarantine period for a lot longer, for much shorter. But I mean, do we want to see another spike?
I think the affects out, like the outcomes of the mandate can be different. They can be like both positive and negative. So we can't really like tell specifically what we should do or shouldn't. But I'm kind of against the vaccine mandate because I think like if we as people can heal naturally from it, why would we use the vaccine? You know what I mean? Not as people from the disease. I'm just saying as a whole. If we can just escape the effect, like, you know, I hope it makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it these days, it's being treated more as like the common cold, like more and more as we travel on. Honestly, in my opinion, the vaccine mandate has done more harm than good. I mean, the original Pfizer and Moderna vaccines have been removed off shelves. We're seeing like new batches being produced because there was a clear connection at the time back then with the original batches between blood clots and heart problems with people.
Yeah, that's true.
So having a vaccine that's not been completely and properly tested and that's pumped out into the market is not a good sign. And when you have government involved in that, it's never a good sign. I mean, look at Europe. Europe exploded when they had all these intense vaccine mandates. And we're still seeing the aftermath, especially in Paris right now with the massive riots that are occurring.
I mean, we did pump it out quickly because I know how eager everyone was to get back. And, you know, are we experiencing consequences?
Right.
still?
Yeah, we are.
I think so for sure. Yeah, but now moving into this next story regarding, you know, the low wages in the fast food industry. So it's known that we have experienced inflation, and the debate for, you know, raising the wages is, oh, we're going to have more inflation with it. But we've all experienced inflation without the minimum wage going up. So is that truly a debate? Should that be right? Or what are you guys' thoughts on the connection between inflation and minimum wage?
Well, we saw the increase in inflation as a result of other worldly factors, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the kind of the destruction of the relationship between President Biden and Saudi Arabia, where they're making the deals right now, oil involved with China. So I'm thinking that the inflation increase doesn't have to do with like minimum wage going up, but if we were to increase the minimum wage, that might make the inflation situation much worse. I mean, I don't think there's a correlation here.
I do understand that, but if we look at the people who are struggling working those jobs, we've talked about the homelessness and the trying to make ends meet, and it's just so devastating. I just think there is supposed to be another source that might help people who work those jobs,
Right.
instead of just raising the pay. Maybe I'm wrong, but we have to also care about the country, and those people live in the same country, so we're going to be taking care of the inflation and of those people as well.
One way to work on that would make mobility more accessible. It would give people more opportunities to pursue jobs that have higher wages, you know, and hopefully as a society we can come to a point where that's available.
The last thing we've discussed about was community college deemed as waste of time. I didn't personally go through community college, and I think that this topic is pretty hot for us because we're all college students.
Right.
Do you guys have something to say about that?
I do, because I'm a firm believer in community college. I transferred, and I think for me, my experience personally, it was very beneficial. One, the big money factor. I saved so much money going to community college first. And then I also think community college was a way for me to stay on track. You know, I was trying to make that 2-year mark to get out and transfer to a 4-year. So I wasn't dropping classes. I wasn't laid back like, oh, well, maybe I can just do it then and now. I was like, no, I'm on a time frame. I got to get it done. And I think it's kept me on track with graduating in 4 years here.
That's
amazing.
I agree. Congratulations.
Thank you, babe.
I think you're right completely, even though I've never experienced community college, and the whole educational system in the US for me was kind of confusing when I saw the credits, and I was like, what? Because when I go to school back at home, it's just like they give us a schedule, that's it. You don't have a choice in anything. Here we have a choice, but it comes with complications where you have to choose the credits, you have to understand what subject you're taking, what it will, like, you have to look for the future, you know what I mean?
With community college, it's a great opportunity for students, and it really helps. I have plenty of friends who graduated early because they went to community college. But on the same side of the coin, we have this issue of overly populated community college with not enough counselors, not enough staff, and not enough advisors. The amount of people I've met who have had a harder time getting out of community college in 2 years because they feel like they aren't being listened to, they feel like their courses aren't matching up, they feel like they've been led astray somehow, it's causing people to drop out. It's causing people to take longer to get their degrees, and eventually it costs people more money because they're spending more time in college.
Yep.
And
As
it's
a-
hard to see.
As a transfer student myself out of a community college, I kind of see both sides of the coin. Yes, there are great financial benefits to transferring out from a community college to a regular, 4-year. But I also see how a lot of the classes and credits don't apply. A lot of my elective classes, for example, did not apply. The core classes for my major, yes, but a lot of the GEs that I needed in order to graduate don't count here, and that's an unfortunate tragedy, because you'll see other students with higher credit points that have priority access to registration, and that's a big issue as well.
Yeah. So just reforming the community college system, it's a great start for students, but we need to make sure that it continues to help them finish.
Right. That's the goal. And that's all we have time for today, you guys.
Have a great week, everyone.
And stay tuned for more news, views, and info.
We'll see you next time on The Report.